Hi, Capricorn Sun and Rising. Welcome to your January 2022 Astro Update. It's Rena here. Don't you just love January? It's like a month where we have a whole new year lying in front of us to color in the way that we want to. And on top of that, if you happen to be a Capricorn, the sun is in your sign for a good portion of the month, so that has to make you feel revitalized. And this particular year, we happen to have a new moon right after the new year. I really enjoy that kind of scenario. I can't remember if there has been a new moon on the 1st. Definitely, I don't think since I've been doing these for the last 6 years that has been the case, but I'm sure it's at one point it was. But this is the next best thing. This is the 2nd of January, and we're going to have a new moon at 12 degrees of Capricorn. So obviously for both the sun and the rising signs, this can feel like a breath of fresh air. This can be a time to set intentions for what you would like, not only for the next month, but for the next year, because this is your new moon being a Capricorn. And, you know, you don't have to just choose things that are about achieving this or that. It can be a state of mind, you know, the way that you express your emotions. It can be something that's intangible too. So that fresh energy begins the year, but we do have a Venus retrograde as we come into 2022. And it happens to be in your sign, Capricorn. So it is that first house, and that can mean that something about you are evaluating. And when I say evaluating, the word value is part of that. And Venus can be about your values. And obviously, we tend to think of values in terms of moralistic concerns or moral concerns. But I'm talking also about the worthwhileness of certain things that are going on in your life. And this can run the gamut. I mean, the first house can be any area or all areas of your life. So an example would be if you are in a certain profession, or even if you have your own business, you may say to yourself, is this really enriching my life? Even if I am making money from it, is it enriching my soul? So that is a distinction that has to be made, because Venus does rule that second house of earned income, but that house is also about one's values and self-esteem. It also rules the 7th house, but we won't talk about that right now. In the case of the second house, it can be about money itself, and that is its own subject. But if that is no object, if money is no object, in other words, you're not concerned with finances right now, then it might be something about satisfaction in life. And it's interesting that the Devil card in the tarot connects to Capricorn, because this idea of being lured by money or status can really be a thing, can really be something where people feel a strong temptation. So this is going to be ongoing through this month. This is going to be a theme of that, and it can just be, you know, on the more superficial level. You might be having a makeover physically, getting a new hairstyle or something like that, because the first house where this Venus retrograde is occurring is the body, so, and the persona, you know. So on the same day, Mercury goes into Aquarius. For you, Capricorn, this is the second house of earned income, And this puts your mind on your money. And for Capricorn, this is a place where your mind often lands, but it's a very harmonious place for you for Mercury to be in your case, because it's an earth house and it's a place of practicality. So it suits you quite well. And you may have some great ideas about how to earn money. On the 14th, we have Mercury retrograding at 10 degrees of Aquarius. Now, at the time of this, and this is very interesting, well, let me just say that Uranus has been at 10 degrees of Taurus for a while and has been retrograding. And 4 days after Mercury goes retrograde at that 10 degree mark in Aquarius, Uranus goes direct at 10 Taurus. So this has been in your 5th house, and it involves one of the areas of the 5th house, besides love and creativity, is the business that you own. So with Uranus here, this can be something off the beaten path for Capricorn. You know, Capricorn tends to be a traditional sign, but some of you, sun sign Capricorns listening to this, you may very easily have inner planets in Aquarius, and that, and I'm also, I could say inner points, including the rising sign, but if you're listening for your rising sign, your moon could be in Aquarius, your rising sign could be in Aquarius. And the point is that Aquarius is the sign ruled by Uranus and is very unconventional. So the reason I'm saying this is because you might already have a streak of that within yourself. But the typical Capricorn person is pretty straight-laced and I was going to say, that naughty part of my mind was going to say a stuffed shirt, kind of like a little bit stuffy in terms of like you like to keep things old school and, traditional. But there's a wild influence with Aquarius that can permeate what you choose as a business. I immediately think of energy work, energy healing, things that involve the intuition, even astrology, and if it's something like an Etsy shop, it could be like alien tote bags or something, galactic and all that. That would be funny. But also, the 5th house can be creativity. So you might be making money through, or want to, because it's squaring off. So that can be a frustration because it's squaring off from the 2nd house and it's going direct. So that might actually bode well for any venture like that, because perhaps things were a little bit too loosey-goosey or chaotic when Uranus was retrograding. And Uranus, I think is almost like Neptune in the sense that it gets like a bad rap sometimes of being very unpredictable and things like that. But there's also quite a unique quality or influence from Uranus. And even if there's a rebellious side to it, sometimes that can be the very thing that is appealing to other people. So, yeah, I mean, if you are a Capricorn person who's an aspiring professional artist or creator of some sort, this can actually be a good thing, even though it is a hard angle, because it can indicate that you're really trying to make it happen. Even if there's obstacles being thrown in your path, it's still making some kind of a contact. And to me, that's showing possibilities for things transpiring. So during the Mercury retrograde, like I said, that's happening in the second house of earned income. And there might be something financial that you have to watch out for. If there's a check in the mail, it might be delayed, it might get lost. Or a misunderstanding about a payment. If there's any kind of feeling that your earning potential or power is lessening, or you feel like there's some kind of a dampening of that, it's only temporary. This is a very fast-moving energy. Mercury goes direct, I believe it's in early February. It's like a 3.5 week transit, Mercury through a sign. And yes, of course, when it's retrograding, it's a little bit more than that because, you have to account for that retrograde. But it should be resolving itself within a month. And so watch out for any kind of things that you have to sign that have a financial angle to them. But it might be bringing back an old idea about how to make money, because this may be something that, and you have Venus in your own sign retrograding too. So that also, when Venus is retrograding, that can indicate going back to an old way of making money. And it might be revisiting it, tweaking it. And I think that, because Venus is such a positive influence, that even retrograde, it can bring you financial abundance. It just will tend to be from old sources sometimes. Maybe something that you thought was no good, or that the well was dry, and then you realize, hey, I can do this. And this retrograde, this in your second house, reminds you of something that you can do. Okay, on the 17th, we have a full moon in your opposite sign of Cancer, 27 degrees of Cancer, almost 28 degrees. So Capricorn, this is your 7th house, which is committed partnership. So, one thing that I should have mentioned, which is very important, is that during a Venus retrograde, you could be experiencing an ex coming into your life, but also Mercury retrograde. You can hear from somebody from your past. So with Uranus going direct, and I'm not saying that, and that's happening the day after this full moon. I'm not saying that whether Uranus is retrograding or direct, that has any bearing on it, but just the stationing angle. That is a very powerful time when a planet is going direct or when it goes retrograde. This is 10 degrees of Taurus, like I said earlier. That could indicate that everything is open for something to come into your life, like a strike of lightning, in terms of love. Like Uranus in your 5th house, in and of itself, can mean some sort of love at first sight. That expression, meeting cute, which means, that's like in those romantic comedies. They meet in a quirky kind of a way. Well, it's, Uranus is quirky. And so you can meet somebody in a quirky way when you least expect it. You may even fall in love with an Aquarian during this time of Uranus in the 5th house. I don't know how long Uranus is going to be in Taurus, several more years. So, but I'm talking about in this month with everything else that's going on. Don't be surprised if somebody from your past comes into the picture, or if you just suddenly get hit by Cupid's arrow of love. And you're in a really random place when it happens. But the reason I'm saying all this is that full moon in Cancer can be a real wake-up call about a committed partnership. For some of you, this may be the last straw. This is one of the latter degrees of Cancer, so this may be something that you've tried to put up with. The truth is that Cancers and Capricorns, in the last dozen years, have had a lot of challenges from various astrological influences to your house of marriage. And one of the big ones is Pluto. Now, at the time of this full moon, on the 17th, Pluto is at 26 degrees of Capricorn. So it is in a direct opposition. And, coming from that first house of the self. And so what that can mean is that you are finally putting yourself first and empowering yourself. With Pluto being part of this can be standing in your own truth and sovereignty. If you have been gaslighted by a partner or otherwise manipulated, it can be very disempowering, because sometimes when we're decent people, we question, maybe is there something that I'm doing that is wrong? And, people who constantly get these accusations, they will think about that. And then you go through what has been going on and you say, wait a second, this is not about me. This is about this other person trying to control me by making things all my fault. And then you feel like a sense of I'm on to what this person's trying to do. I'm not going to fall for the okie doke, So some kind of realization about relationships. However, this might also be a time when you are admitting your own faults, in a sense, because Pluto is that shadow work, and it's coming from the house of the self. That's where the conjunction is with your sun or rising sign. I mean, I'm talking about not conjunction with your sun and rising sign, conjunction with opposition with the conjunction with the moon, but opposition with the sun in the 7th house. And that's just as important when you're trying to figure things out, is knowing when you have made a mistake. Maybe, there are some Capricorns who have neglected their partner and have been more focused on their own career or what have you, and you took the relationship for granted, and you acknowledge that. It might not be anything malicious. It just might have been that you were so absorbed in other things that you know what you need to do to make things better. So I'm by no means saying that your relationship is over with. But if you really don't want this relationship, then it certainly is a great time to call it quits and move on, but the Venus retrograde can cloud one's judgment in these matters of love. So maybe you wait until you initiate these changes. Early March is going to be a time of greater moving forward. We're going to have a lot of stuff going on, including the Mercury retrograde going into February, and the Venus retrograde shadow continuing past January into February too. So, so this is very interesting what is happening for Capricorn. On the 19th, the sun goes into Aquarius. And so there's more energy in that second house of earned income, more emphasis on your finances and things like that. More creativity poured into that. On the 24th, Mars goes into your sign. This is great for, if you are trying to beautify yourself, Mars can give you the physical energy to start working out more. Maybe in terms of if you're trying to make money, it might be some kind of promotion, self-promotion that you're trying to do. But in general, you're more confident and you're more aggressive or assertive in trying to make things happen. On the 25th, Mercury goes into Capricorn. So you see, even when we're going into Aquarius season with the sun, we have these other planets in Capricorn. Now, granted, Mercury is retrograde at this time. It's going backwards, so that's why it's going into Capricorn. So you have two retrograding planets in that first house. This definitely will be a month for you to review your life as a whole and your sense of self, Capricorn. So as much as it is a new year and you have a new moon at the beginning of the month, it really is kind of this sense of a lot of reviewing and thinking things over, thinking like, how do I come across other people? And that might be something that you really are working on because, for instance, if you have Capricorn rising, you might be pretty businesslike. And let's say your sun is in a fire sign and you feel frustrated because you attract very conservative people. And even though you do have this part of yourself, you feel like you're more compatible with another type of individual. By looking at how you carry yourself, how you dress, and all of those things, you can gain a better understanding of what to do. Even like people who work for themselves, and maybe people who, even people on YouTube. Of course, I don't have to worry about that because I don't show myself. But some people, they may give the wrong impression, just even how they're dressed. And it's easy to say, oh, well, that's superficial. You shouldn't judge a book by its cover, but people do, whether you like it or not. People do it. And, if you're okay with that, then it's all good. But if it frustrates you that your message seems to be, or your image seems to be coming in the way of your message and, muddling things, then you might look at that area. And like, for instance, a lot of times women, in a quest to be seen as attractive, they might be dressing very sexily, and maybe they can get a certain amount of eyeballs on them, especially with men, but it might not be something that translates into people taking them seriously. And we can just, argue all day long and say, oh, that's superficial or that's sexist. But if the bottom line is you're looking for sales, you're looking for increased sales, and you find that you're kind of in a holding pattern, then, you might want to look at that. And then on the 29th, we have Venus direct at 11 degrees of Capricorn. So Venus resolves itself at the end of the month, but like I said, there is a shadow period, and that goes into I think it actually goes into early March in terms of Venus getting back to the degree it was when she retrograded. But in any case, it's just one of those things. Let me see. Because I wasn't really looking myself, I don't really, yeah. Well, actually, Venus must come out of her shadow. Okay, I see. This particular ephemeris is combining February and early March. Yeah, in early March, it's going to take that long. So it's probably around the 2nd of the month of March before Venus comes out of her shadow. So you can see that this period is a very long period for retrogrades and stuff like that. And then it looks like March is a clear green light time. So that's exciting. Although I remember hearing another astrologer talking about this a few months ago, and I thought, March? I mean, gosh, we're going to start the year and then we have to wait until March for everything to be, moving forward. It just seemed like such a long time, but it really isn't. And that doesn't mean you can't launch anything before then, but just remember that Mercury is retrograde until the 3rd of February. Okay, that's what I have for you, Capricorn. I hope that you enjoyed this. If you would like me to actually look at your chart and see what your transits are for the coming year, I have like a transits reading that I do, an hour-long reading. And I also have a combination, 2 hours altogether with chart analysis of your natal chart. That's at a special price. It's called Deep Dive Reading. So please check out my offerings at the link below. I'm at RainaMoonAstrology.com. Take care. Bye.